Over the past few weeks, Checkpoint has continued to detail concerns about Auckland's port, which has continued to come under fire for delays unloading freight. While retailers wait on desperately needed stock at one of their busiest times of the year, it's also been fined more than $500,000 over the death of a worker, the second in recent years. Tonight, Checkpoint can reveal the port's boss is being accused of making derogatory comments about Māori and Pasifika employees. The union is claiming some workers are so offended they didn't come to work today. During an interview with Checkpoint last night, Port CEO Tony Gibson admitted the port had some safety culture issues.
We have a large Pacific Island Māori community, and very often they are what I would call shy in coming forward to address issues.
And Mr Gibson's adamant its automation project is not to blame for the major issues the company's facing, including delays in unloading freight. Maritime Union's National Secretary Craig Harrison says workers disagree.
What we've been getting told by our members on the port is they seem to be having a lot of ongoing issues around getting it all to the automation to work properly and the systems to talk each other. So it was just a few weeks ago that they closed the automation down while one of the automated straddles hit a concrete barrier. And you would have thought that so far into the project, this started February 2019 they were arriving, that they would have been a fair way down the track of getting it sorted by now. So we can't see how they're going to roll this out by Christmas. We can't see how they're going to get it rolled out by even March next year, unless something drastic is going to change.
So what did you think when you heard the Port CEO, Tony Gibson, describe it as, one glitch?
Well, he might have one glitch on the one day, but I think they have glitches every day of the week, just quietly, yeah. The CEO's been there while you've had two deaths, and prior to the two deaths, there were another two cases where Ports of Auckland were prosecuted under health and safety. And on top of that, you had the incident where the ocean swimmer was tied up with a pilot boat. So when they talk about taking ownership, I haven't seen any of the management team take ownership of the problem. I haven't seen any of the HR team being disciplined or sacked. So, I have little confidence that they're going to change it. And what was really upsetting a few of our members got was the comments he made last night on the media saying part of the culture was having Pasifika and Māori workers and they were shy not coming forward. And our members and the workers find it quite offensive because they do come forward and they do raise issues. So I don't know why he's done that, but a couple of members were that upset. They rang me this morning and decided not to go to work to have the day off.
Why do you think he would say that, the CEO?
Look, you'd have to drill him onto that, but I think it's, and in this day and age, it's not warranted. If you look at our membership, it's diverse. It's Pasifika, Māori, women, young people. And if you look at the Auckland branch of the Maritime Union, if you look at the executive team, which is made up of workers from our industry, it exactly looks what our industry looks like. Young women, young men, Pasifika, Māori, and they all take part and contribute in the debates. And I don't know why he said that.
When you say, Craig, that those kind of comments aren't warranted in this day and age, what do you mean by that?
Well, it seems to me that he seems to think that half the trouble that he's got a health and safety issues because he's got Māori and Pacific Islanders working at the Ports of Auckland, and if no one finds that offensive, right?
Do you think those comments were racist, Craig?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't call them. I wouldn't call them racist to the extent I think it's derogatory. It doesn't give those people the credit for the knowledge they bring to the table and who they are as workers. It's disrespectful.
Do people feel safe there at the ports?
No, they are nervous. For instance, the port had what they called a fatigue risk management policy, and that came about the amount of hours the stevedores were able to work in a 7-day period. And we actually had to take the port company on about that because they were actually breaching their own health and safety policies with workers doing excessive hours. So now they've pulled it back, which is good. So what's been happening, and they knew this prior to COVID, they've been working excessive hours and they've not done anything to sort it out. And when Ross Clark said in February 2019 that they were struggling to get enough staff on board, they had plenty of time to sort this out.
Why do you think they haven't?
You'd have to ask them. I just don't think they've analysed what they needed in the future. And I think they've actually thought that automation was going to be well and truly working by now and they wouldn't need all these employees.
So, does someone need to go down there?
Well, I think so. Like, what do we wait? Do we keep on waiting as it gets worse and worse? Because New Zealand will be heading into its big export season with the produce, and there'll be a vast amount of containers carrying the likes of onions and squash and all that to the markets. And if they can't get those containers repatriated out of Auckland down to other ports or down the country, and they're tied up sitting on ships in Auckland, there's going to be a lot of people really concerned, and it's going to have an impact. And it's starting to impact the country now. I think if you ring up some of the ports around the country and talk to them, for instance, I think Wellington, they're getting impacted on it. How the ships are actually, I think, starting to drop cargo in Sydney and letting other vessels pick them up. But the mere fact that the ships coming into Auckland now are putting a surcharge on the cargo coming into Auckland, everyone's paying for it now. It's only going to get worse unless the company can give us an indication when it's going to be sorted, and they haven't done that.
Who does the buck stop with?
Well, to me, it starts with the chair and the board, and also starts with the CEO and the management team. They've been at the helms of this automation process, and it's gone on for a couple of years. Yes, COVID did have a little impact on it, but I don't think if you look at ports, if you look at Oceania, they say they're the best port in Oceania, and that, really the only other place in Oceania who's got container ports is Australia, and that's who they're comparing themselves. But if you compare them with Australian ports, I don't think the Australian ports have got the backlog and the backup compared to what you're seeing in Auckland. Surely Tauranga has scaled up to their as much as they can in capacity. I don't think Littleton's overrun at the moment. I know Wellington's struggling at the moment just because the effects of the earthquake they had. But
so, given what you know, your best estimation, when do you think automation will be up and running? Will they even get there by the end of next year?
I think you'd have to be optimistic to have made it by the end of the year. I'd say my best guess, the vast majority of next year, they will still be impacted by what's going on now, because when you look, if the ship's 11 days behind and it takes so many days to train up these new people, and they don't, and the hours are getting reduced because they haven't got enough staff, it's just going to keep on compounding. And it'd be interesting to see if the company Ports of Auckland does come back and tell the public that there will be a date when this is sorted. And I don't think they'll give it.
And that was Craig Harrison from the Maritime Union.